Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live session of the Industrial Ecology Master Program at Leiden University and Delft University of Technology. My name is Joanna, and I'm one of the students in this program, and I'm moderating the live session today. We're really happy that you found our program and are joining us here. So before we start, I'll just tell you a little bit about the structure of the session. We'll first start with a small round of introductions with everyone present here. Then I'll ask some questions to my fellow students, the study advisor, and the program director to give you more in-depth information about our program. And note that you can also send in questions while we are speaking, and then we'll answer those at the Q&A part at the end of the session. So you can send in your questions via the event page. Then after this session, you can continue asking questions via the chat function on the event page. And later on, you can always reach out to the study advisors or the student ambassador. So please note also that on the event page, there's some interesting videos for you to watch. So one by our program director, Stefano Cucaraci, and one by one of our former students talking about her thesis research project. So you just go to the event page of Industrial Ecology and scroll down for those videos. So we can get started. As I said, I'm Joanna. I'm a second year IE student, so I'm currently working on my thesis research project. I'm from Canada, where I did a bachelor's in chemical engineering with an environmental focus, and then worked for a couple years before deciding to do this master's. And when I'm not studying, I'm usually playing soccer, cycling, reading books, or organizing events with the IE Study Association, which is ISA Shift. Mando, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Joanna. Hi, everyone. My name is Mando. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm also a second year industrial ecology student right now. Before that, I worked a few years, also like Joanna. And before that, I did my bachelor in Utrecht University, economics and business economics. And yeah, if I'm not studying, I like to swim with some friends or play board games with my roommates.
Thanks, Mando. Samya, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Joanna, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Soumya and I'm from India. So I'm doing my first year in industrial ecology right now. And before this, I did my bachelor's in engineering physics. If I'm not studying, I like to unwind by cooking, reading, taking long walks, and just hanging out with friends.
Thanks. Paula?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Paula van den Berg. I work for 4 years now at Leiden University. And I'm involved in the program as study advisor and program coordinator for the Industrial Ecology Master. And I'm very much looking forward to tell you during this session more about our program.
Thanks. And lastly, Stefano.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm Stefano Cucaraci, the director of the master's program. I've been the director for the last 2 years. Aside from being the director and teaching one of the core courses in the program, I do research in the field of industrial ecology, and in particular on the sustainability assessment of emerging technologies. And why not, when I'm not teaching or researching or being the director of master program, I also like swimming, especially cold swimming in the winters in the Netherlands. Also, the North Sea is my friend.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's just dive into the questions then. My first question for you, Mando, why did you choose to apply for industrial ecology?
Good question. Well, as I just mentioned, I come from an economics background, and I really enjoyed the bachelor, but I felt that I was missing something. I think the main focus was on personal or company profit, which is very interesting, but I didn't really want to do that the rest of my life. So I missed something like a positive value to society, and that's why I switched away from economics. And while thinking what to do, I did a few years, some full-time jobs at different locations in Utrecht, but still I didn't really find what I wanted to do. So I remembered the minor that I did during my bachelor, which was sustainable business and innovation, and I found that I really liked those courses. So I started looking in those types of masters and eventually found industrial ecology.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, maybe Samya, you can tell us about your reasons.
Yes. So I think similar reasons as Mando, like when I was doing physics, I felt like it was too abstract and not connected with a lot of the real world issues that I felt myself interested in. So even during my bachelor's, I explored courses in sustainability. And at the end of my bachelor's, I was looking for programs in sustainability that I could apply for because I wanted to make this shift. And that's when I came across industrial ecology. And I really liked how interdisciplinary it was. And I expected that I would have like a broader understanding of the issues and like a systems perspective. And also, I really liked how it sounded very action oriented, and that is why I applied for industrial ecology, and I'm here now.
Perfect. Yeah, I also had similar reasons. I decided to take the program because after my bachelor's, I was working in a plastics recycling company, and I really started to get discouraged by like the lack of regulation and initiatives around proper waste management. And you realize that all of these problems are so interconnected. So I really wanted to work on these sort of system level solutions instead of just kind of cleaning up the trash afterwards. So maybe it's good to tell our audience the kind of students that apply for the master's. Stefano, what kind of students are you looking for?
Yeah, we are looking for students like you, Joanna, Mando, and Somia, but students that are action-oriented. They're interested in stress testing solutions. They have a broad interest in sustainability and in all aspects of sustainability, and are interested in contributing to change by designing solutions, contributing to the design of solutions, but also using the methods of industrial ecology to test those solutions, and thinking always of impacts at scale, for instance, or trade-offs of a small scale solution at a bigger level in terms of scale and place. And also, what if a solution that works in the Netherlands would not work in India, where Somia is from? We should also keep that in mind. And also, students that have that kind of mentality and mindset are those students we are looking for. And in terms of backgrounds, we have a lot of variety in backgrounds for the kind of students that apply for the master's program, from social sciences to engineering and natural sciences.
Okay, perfect. And what makes industrial ecology different from other sustainability master's programs here in the Netherlands?
Yeah, we can start for the Netherlands, but we can broaden the discussions to other countries as well. In the Netherlands, certainly it's the only master's program that focuses on sustainability that has two universities like Leiden and TU Delft. They're collaborating together and using and leveraging their strengths in engineering and natural sciences to drive change for sustainability. Also, not to be forgotten, industrial ecology is also a field of science. So the program is embedded in an international community of industrial ecology and in a field of science that exists, and there's active researchers all around the globe. We also have our lecturers have connections, and our lecturers are also active in the international community of industrial ecology. So also this kind of embedding in the community and the fact that two top universities are involved in a program and co-manage the program jointly. Also, it's unique also in the international panorama of sustainability programs.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's a joint degree. So maybe Paula, if you could tell us a little bit about how that relationship works with the Delft.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as Stefano said, it's a really cooperation between Leiden University and Delft University of Technology. And both universities are involved in the teaching in our program. So students will have classes either in Leiden and in Delft. At the end of the program, students will also earn a joint degree diploma in industrial ecology. So that's a joint diploma from Leiden University and Delft University of Technology. And as Stefano mentioned, our program really combines the strength of two top universities. So either the engineering and more social sciences part from the TU Delft and the natural sciences from Leiden University. And that's really a unique thing. And yeah, I think that's nice, really nice of our program. And also in terms of electives, the joint degree offers you the opportunity to attend classes in Leiden, but also follow electives in Delft. So you have a broad range of possible elective courses there.
Okay, so let's move on to talking about a typical industrial ecology week. You know, what are the lectures like? What kind of assignments do we have? How busy it is? Mondo, maybe you can start.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's really different towards the whole program. It's really dependent on how many courses you have in that specific period. And I think the beginning of the first year is also a little bit more intensive. So there are 3 courses at the same time, which have both a tutorial and a lecture. And those are following up each other. So you have like at least 6 contact points a week. And those can be on the same day or a different day. So you have mostly like at least 4 or 5 days like classical activities. And next to that, there's of course some room for homework. But then later on, you get some like bigger group projects, which are the full courses. So you don't really have lectures anymore for those courses. So then you really have to divide your time differently and meet up with your group to work together. But when you want to do that, it's really up to you. So I feel that the becoming free in when you want to do what comes more and more over the program itself, until where I just started the thesis, which is the only course I'm still doing. So I can spend my time however I like and don't have any like obligations towards lectures and tutorials anymore.
Thanks. Salmia?
I think Mando we did a pretty good job of covering most of it. And like he said, the first semester was especially hectic and intense, and it was a pretty full week. Though I think some of my colleagues did manage other commitments along with the program. And to add on to what he said, some of the courses are oriented more towards the natural science and engineering, and some more towards social science. And so the assignments and lectures follow accordingly. And I would also like to add, like, all of the lectures, especially for the core courses of the first semester, they make sure that everybody can follow despite the background they're coming from. So in a typical week, I would have these lectures, maybe some readings to catch up on, and some assignments to work on, and group work. And I think towards the deadlines, the weeks tend to get a little bit more intense.
Okay, so maybe can you tell us a little bit about the types of assignments and maybe your favorite type of assignment that you did over the last year or 6 months?
Yeah, sure. So I think the types of assignment depends on the course. Like the natural science engineering courses would have assignments which, for example, would require us to pick up programming skills or like teaching us to work with a particular tool. And the social science related courses would be more towards understanding a particular theoretical framework and applying them to case studies. And all of them also require, involve a lot of soft skills like report writing, literature reviewing, group work, and so on. And I think I would like to particularly point out how group work is emphasized a lot in this program. And I think that's really great. Like, I personally learned a lot about collaborating with people from different backgrounds. And I think it is also a very crucial skill for working in sustainability or any interdisciplinary field for that matter, right? And my personal favorite ones were the programming ones because of my background. I enjoyed them a lot. But I also think that I learned a lot from the social science related assignments, though I struggled a bit with them because of my background.
And you, Manda, do you have a favorite assignment?
I think like the big project we did at the end of the first year, it's either urban or industrial oriented. I did my project on the industry, and we tried to find like a real case in how we can make the industry more sustainable. So we're looking at the Dutch greenhouses who fire up gas to create heat and CO2, both things which the plants inside the greenhouses need to grow. And we're thinking, well, maybe we can do that differently. So we figured that there's, of course, Shell, who emits a lot of CO2. So why don't we capture that and lead that towards the greenhouses? And there are more and more big data centers. We have a lot of excess heat. So why don't we capture that heat and also guide it towards the greenhouses. So then the heat from the data centers isn't lost. Shell emits less CO2, and the greenhouses don't have to fire up gas anymore for their resources that they need. So we figured out whether that was possible or not. And my background in economics really thought, okay, what is going to cost and how are we going to do it financially? But then I really learned from people in my group who had different backgrounds, mostly engineering, for example, who taught me a lot in how to actually do that. What kind of materials do we need? What kind of conductors, pumps, whatever. So yeah, it was really interesting to collaborate with these different backgrounds and to come up with a complete solution, so to say.
That sounds great. So that was the first year project course. And then there's also a project course in the second year where we do work for an external commissioner. My project was with the New Energy Coalition, and we tried to present policymakers with clear and accessible decision-making information about the hydrogen economy in the Netherlands. So because there's so much information, that involved an extensive literature review from our part. And then we highlighted key insights and policy recommendations, did some interviews with industry players and a stakeholder analysis, and then built an interactive tool to access that information. What was your project about, Mando?
My project was for a sustainable consultant, and they were actually doing a project on an e-commerce platform, which was grading their project, the products they sold online with a sustainability score. But I actually wanted to add like electronic products, but they are very difficult to grade on terms of sustainability because they're very complex. So they gave us the assignment to figure out a life cycle assessment kind of tool and how to create like a platform on how to grade consumer electronics. So yeah, we're actually also working on a tool to see what the impacts of consumer electronics really are.
Perfect. And you already mentioned working a little bit with some engineers and some other people. So generally, how did you experience collaborating with students from these different backgrounds?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, it was really interesting to really learn from each other. So you have not just only the projects, but also different courses with different disciplines. And then the social or economic related courses were a little bit more easy for me, I would say. But then I could really teach my fellow students about it. But it also worked the other way around. So the more technical stuff I didn't really know much about, was getting a little bit more easy with the help of my fellow students.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I similarly found it really valuable. I came from engineering, but it was a few years ago, so not entirely fresh. And when we had the Python programming class, that was very new to me. So it was good to, have other people that you can work with and bounce ideas off of and stuff like that. So maybe it's also interesting to talk about the thesis. Paula, can you tell us a bit about the setup for that?
Yes, sure. Yeah, the thesis is the final course of our program, so in the 4th semester. But before starting with a thesis in the 3rd semester, you will first have a thesis preparation course in which you work towards your, define your topic for your thesis, define your research questions, and work towards your research proposal in steps. So that's a guided course, and you get peer feedback. So you really have a semester to think of a topic and work on your proposal. And then after that, in the 4th semester of our program, you will have the thesis research project where you individually conduct research on a topic of your interest. And that will, of course, focus on a sustainability problem or a sustainability solution. So that's a full semester course, and you will be supervised by 2 examiners from either Leiden University or Delft University of Technology. That's the final course of our program. And probably you, Mando, and Joanna can tell about what you are currently working on for your thesis.
Yeah, so I'm basically, we're just getting started, but I'm working on integrating future scenarios about chemicals into the background data of life cycle assessments so that you can improve the quality of these assessments on emerging technologies so that the background data isn't from 2010 when you're working on something that's coming and emerging for 2050. What about you, Mondo?
I'm actually trying to look what the impacts would be if we, at least the full-timers in the Netherlands, switch from a 5-day work week towards a 4-day work week. And then in terms of human well-being, but also sustainability. But now that I'm working on it, it actually feels more like an outcome of a certain assessment, which I need to do first. And that's really based on how to link time use towards consumption, so to say. So in what hours of the day will you be consuming what? And that really sounds interesting if you first think about it, and like really self-explanatory, because if I'm having dinner, then I'm consuming this meal. But if you really think deeper into it, like the clothes you're wearing or the house you're living in, or a different footprint you have on the whole society, that's all something to take into account. So I first need to do that analysis, and then maybe I can say something about switching in these time use activities. For example, less work and more leisure time.
That sounds really interesting. So, where were we? Okay, so we wanted to talk about also the skills that we're looking for and the skills that you learn while studying industrial ecology. So, Stefano, could you talk about what skills you learned throughout the program?
Yeah, in the program, the training focuses both on skills related to the methods of industrial ecology, and which we have already heard about some example of like life cycle assessment, which allows you to assess the environmental impacts and sometimes also the social impacts of products along their life cycle. But there's also others like material flow analysis, so environmental extended input output, or methods from the social side of industrial ecology, or more other methods that relate more to modeling the system, like agent-based modeling. And programming skills that Soumya mentioned earlier are also becoming a growing and a more important part of the training of the industrial ecologists, just because we see that where the field of quantitative sustainability assessment is going, and those skills are important to apply and to test the solutions, as I mentioned before, or to be an industrial ecology out there outside of the university environment, but also within the university environment for those students that are interested in an academic career. And of course, other soft skills that relate to social and working as a group, working with others, working with people that are diverse in terms of background, but also both cultural background, but also academic background. So I think those are also important skills that are trained in the program.
Thanks. Do the students have anything to add on to that, Soumya?
I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of these skills, Stefano, what's something you could say about the careers that are available to us after studying industrial ecology?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and something that students mature as they go along with the program. And they start thinking about already at the start when they start picking their electives, or also towards the end when they work on their thesis projects. We keep an eye on what alumni do when they leave the program, and there is a broad spectrum of places where they end up working. Some stay in academia, but most of industrial ecologists will be an industrial ecologist at a consultancy company, at a international corporation, or in a non-governmental institutions. You will find industrial ecologists in whichever place has a sustainability unit that tries to do a quantitative assessment of sustainability. Typically, industrial ecologists are a flexible element that connects the skills of engineers and the knowledge of engineers with other top for instance, with the top manager of a company, producing reports and assessing sustainability from a quantitative perspective, both from a social perspective, also from a natural science and engineering perspective.
Great, thank you. So we've heard a lot about the benefits of the program, but I'm also curious to hear from the students if you've had any challenges during your studies or if you're having challenges right now.
Yeah, go. You go first.
All right. Yeah, well, as actually contrary on Somya, I really had some difficulties with the programming. I didn't do any programming language during my bachelor, and I felt that the pace or the required like level at the beginning of the master was already, well, somewhat high. So in order to catch up, I did some extra homework, so to say. So the evenings in the first few weeks were for me mostly understanding programming code. So that was quite an intense start. But then after a few weeks, I catched up, and then I could really get along, and eventually got high grades as well. So that was a struggle at first, but overcomable.
Yeah, similarly, in contrast, I think I struggle with the social science courses more because the science was easy for me and very much in my forte. But I think over time it got easier because I got more comfortable with it. Another thing I wanted to also mention, also because I'm just newly starting the program, I think I personally, as an international student, I felt a little bit difficult moving from a very, very, very different culture over here. It was quite a bit of a culture shock, and the very small things were challenging for me. And like it could be something as simple as grocery shopping, you know. And like so, I think in those times, what helped me was reaching out to people and who might have gone through similar experiences, and also discovering that there are people who are willing to, you know, put in efforts to talk about these minor experiences and help me through this transition. So that really helps.
That's great. Yeah, I also, I had some challenges with the workload. It can be quite high, and especially if you have electives from different universities and different faculties within these universities, these deadlines could clash because there's no communication necessarily between somebody in Leiden and Delft about an elective. So it can make certain periods quite stressful. And then I also had a lot of trouble figuring out what area I wanted to go into for my thesis. So, thinking about that early is always a good idea because, I had quite a stressful time trying to kick my thesis off, but I'm happy with it now. It just took a little bit of back and forth in my head. And then, of course, Mando and I both started in quite a bit of remote learning and lockdowns. So it was a bit isolating to go through all this school stress without really having the social circle. But I don't think that will be as much of an issue moving forward. So hopefully you'll be okay. Okay, so IE students, of course, as we've discussed, come from different backgrounds. So how do you deal with this during the program, Stefano?
Yeah, even before the students enter the program, we try to support them with a preparation module, which is an online-based set of training tools that we set up, and we have set up in the past years to allow students to refresh their knowledge on some aspects that might be more familiar to them, and also get up to speed with some other skills and knowledge they're a bit further away from their bachelor's training. That's one. And then in the program, at times, we also had to differentiate, keeping the same learning goals and learning aspiration for all students, trying to differentiate between the training. So we heard already the example of programming. For some courses, we segmented the training up to based on the level of programming skills, and then we we made sure, or we tried to make sure, that all the students were at the same level at the end of the course. These are just examples, but typically we try to also the teachers come from a variety of backgrounds. There are engineers like myself, but there's also social scientists and biologists, or less technical people, and social and in the program. So that also allows to have this flexible teaching in the courses and in the program as a whole.
Thanks. And finally, Paula, can you tell us a bit more about how students can apply for the program?
Yes, sure. Yeah, good question. Yeah, to be eligible for the program, students must have a bachelor degree in any of the natural sciences, engineering sciences, or social sciences. So that's one of the requirements. And that degree must be similar to a level similar to Dutch universities. And furthermore, we have 3 requirements which are an important entry requirement for our program. Students must have affinity with multi or interdisciplinary education or research, and also demonstrable interest in the field of sustainability. And the last one is a level of mathematics or statistics or programming with a minimum of 6 ECTS credit load. So those are the requirements. And to apply for our program, you first register via the Dutch application platform StudyLink. And then after your registration there, you will receive the login details for the Leiden application platform, Usability, and there you can complete your application. And it's good to mention that there are 2 deadlines. The first one is the 1st of April. If you need a visa or residence permit to study in the Netherlands, it's important to meet that deadline. And the other one is the 15th of June, in case you don't need a visa or residence permit.
Okay, great. So I think we'll then move on to the questions from the chat. So I'll just start going through them, and whoever wants to answer, you can jump in. So the first question is, what is the ratio between Dutch and international students in the program? Have you experienced a social division between these groups?
I can shortly tell something about the ratio, and maybe Somya, you can tell about your experiences, or Joanna as a student. I think in the past years we had around 30 to 50% of international students, and the other part of the group was Dutch, so it was really a mix. And the part of international students, between those students, there was also really a mix in different cultural and national backgrounds. So I think there's a nice mix, and maybe good to tell about your experiences. Somya, did you experience any division between the Dutch students or international students?
I'm not sure about any social division, because I think in all of my working groups, it was always mixed. There was always some Dutch people, some international people, and I had a great time working with all of them. So I did not have any problem in that sphere, definitely. But sometimes I did feel like the representation from Global South was a bit low, but I think that needs more, it's a longer term process, I guess. So yeah, otherwise I have a really good time in the program, yes.
Yeah, and of course for us, it was a little bit different. I mean, there wasn't as much in-class contact where you would see separation happening. But as I said before, I got involved in the study association, which is open to everybody and a really great way to meet people who are Dutch and who are not Dutch. And I thought that was a great way to meet people and a great way to get involved and kind of build the IE community. So yeah, if people come out to that, they're obviously willing to make friends and get to know everybody from different countries. Okay, the next question is if there's an age limit for the candidate selection, which I think there is not. No age limit.
Yeah, there's no age limit. We remind sometimes to applicants that this is not a professional master's and that it's a research master, so there might be differences in expectations between prospective students that have 10 years of 15 years of experience working somewhere and then joining the program. So there might be age differences when once joining the program between the cohorts of students, but there's no any age limit.
Perfect. Okay, the next question is, how would you rate the usability of the program for a career in engineering, sustainability oriented?
Yeah, maybe I can say a few words about that. Given the diversity in backgrounds and the specific training that each student follows within the set of electives that they choose, I think it's a master's that's usable, it's flexible, and the skills of industrial ecology are sought after on the job market. So I think a career, there's both the possibility to go deeper and in engineering related skills, also with an emphasis on sustainability, which would allow to make this program usable for a future career in that field.
Thanks. Okay, next question. Since the master's program is offered by both Leiden and TU Delft, how will the classes be spread or handled? Do we need to move both to and fro both the universities on a daily basis? And also, I'm currently looking for housing. Which city should I prefer, The Hague or Leiden, in terms of ease of transportation to university? I can start, and then the others maybe can add to it. The first semester will be Leiden focused, the second Delft. So in those semesters or quarters, you won't be traveling back and forth. But later, if you take an elective in Leiden and Delft at the same time, you would have to manage that schedule, that one day you might be in Delft and the next day in Leiden. And then as for living, we have students all over the place. If you prefer to travel less, I would pick Delft or Leiden, because then you have at least one way where you're not traveling. In The Hague, it's very central, which is perfect, but you have to travel for both locations. But you're going to have a little mini community in whichever city you choose. There's also people in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, so it's quite spread out. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Well, even in Utrecht.
Yeah. Okay, so for the second year projects, do you find the external partner company organization yourself? No, actually, there's a selection of, I don't know what it was, 20 projects available, and the companies provide these projects. And then we ranked our top choices, and then we were placed with the best possible option for how we ranked it. And also, I think, to keep the groups interdisciplinary. For you, Stefano, maybe, or Paula, what percentage of students successfully completed the master program and then obtained the degree?
Yeah, Paula, maybe you can be more specific on the statistics. I think most students that started the program completed it within, and the lengths could be varying depending on personal choices on the personal path. What it would be the average, Paula, to date in terms of duration?
Of duration, I think that really differs indeed. Some students graduate within 2 years, but also some take time to extend their studies with a semester, to do extra courses or go on exchange abroad, because that's also a possibility, or do extra projects or internships next to the study. So some also take 2.5 years. There are also some students who do a double master program, so they also combine it with another master, mostly at the TU Delft. They mostly take 3 years. So I think there's quite some difference in the duration of the program. But I think, almost all of the students graduate in the end, and there are sometimes a few dropouts, but mostly at the start of the program, but not really like after 1 year or 1.5 years. So the students who continue with our program, they also graduate in the end.
Thanks, Paula. Okay, the next question is, do you recommend doing part-time studying, working part-time? part-time work maybe during the study or doing a summer job between semesters, and what type of part-time or summer job. For myself, I don't think I could have worked at the same time, but I did participate in the shift board. So I guess that's kind of like a part-time job. But in the summer, you would definitely have 2 months free to do work. What about the others?
Yeah, I know multiple students who had like 1 or 2 working days towards the whole masters and succeeded with good grades. Myself, I didn't, but I spent time on other things for my CV, not necessarily working. And now during my thesis, I picked up a job for 8 hours a week also. So I think it is manageable, but I think if you want to, relax a bit more, then you can just stick to the 40 hours on the study itself. And if you really want to strive and earn some money next to it, it's possible, but it's going to cost you a lot of free hours.
There's one point I would like to add. I think I am not very sure about the details, but I think if you're looking to do part-time, depending on where you're from, you should also look into the visa, resident permit, work permit issues. Like, I think if you're an EU student, that does not apply to you. But if you're a non-EU student, I think there are some, I do not do part-time myself, so I'm not sure, but I think that's something also that you should look into.
Yes, and it changes your insurance as well, your health insurance. Okay, so the next question is, how were the courses delivered during the pandemic, and how are they planned to be next year? Paula?
Yes, during the pandemic, of course, we had to switch to online in times of lockdown. So we had recording sometimes to prepare for classes, but also live streams. And we try to accommodate having interaction during those classes as well. So we try to have breakout groups where students could have discussions in smaller groups or could really interact with the teacher. So we try to make the best out of it, although we also are very happy that we are allowed to offer on-campus education again. Yeah, maybe Stefano, you can tell a little bit about next year. Of course, it's still uncertain at the moment how things will evolve regarding the pandemic. And also Leiden University is not really clear, but
yeah, we will in any case follow the indications of the Dutch government and Leiden University, but we are both Leiden University and Delft University of Technology are on-campus institutions. So we will strive to have as many activities as possible on campus to allow the students to leave the industrial ecology community and to form a new community and especially to build links between cohorts of students, first years, second years as well, which has been not so easy in the past years, and that's always been a strength of the industrial ecology masters. So we will definitely stimulate students to come to campus. Our classes will be given on campus, unless there's certain parts of courses that for pedagogical reasons are better suited online. We will otherwise be on campus.
Great. Are there opportunities to study abroad for a semester?
yes, I think I shortly mentioned it, but there definitely are. Although in every semester of our program, we have some mandatory courses of our program. So students who choose for an exchange semester, they extend their studies with a semester. So they postpone some of our obligatory courses to another semester and keep and have then a free semester to go on exchange. But it's definitely possible. There are some agreements with partner universities inside Europe, but also outside. And you can apply for an exchange spot and then take electives abroad. And another option could be to go abroad during your thesis research and find a place to, for example, at a university abroad, but this could also be a company or organization abroad to do your thesis research there. Most of our students who go abroad, they choose to go for the exchange semester because they also really like the experience to meet other students and experience the student life in another country. And that might be a bit different when you go abroad for thesis research, but both options are possible.
thanks. Okay, so we maybe covered some of this, but there's a question about there being more masters about sustainability offered in the Netherlands, and what do we say is unique about the industrial ecology? I think Stefano talked a bit about that earlier, about the fact that it's jointly between 2 universities. Maybe Mando, you went to Utrecht, you could tell a little bit about that, maybe in comparison.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure actually. I did some courses during my minor here in Utrecht, and they were like really, yeah, basic, but I think that's the point of a bachelor. And then during the master, we got way more in depth of it. And also, I don't think like the way industrial ecology is being taught in both Leiden and Delft would be possible here in Utrecht. So, yeah, for me, this was the most obvious choice to go to industrial ecology.
Yeah, maybe we can bounce the question back to you, Joanna and Somia. Why this program and not another similar program in the Netherlands or in other places? I would say because the people in the program are amazing, and we try to build a community that is functional, and it's also a network of people for the future. But maybe you had other other ideas.
Yeah, I didn't apply to anything else in the Netherlands, but I had applied to a program in Germany. And in the end, it seemed that that one was much more, yeah, sort of a very shallow coverage of a lot of things. Whereas here, I feel like we get really usable skills. Like I can do an LCA now, and I can do an MFA. These are things that you see on job postings all the time. And then I also was looking in the UK, but those programs were only 1 year. And I wanted to be able to really dive into something for a couple years and learn a lot. So first, the 3 semesters where you're just gaining information, and then this last semester where we get to do our own research project.
Yeah, I agree with Johanna. I think I felt the same way. A lot of the programs I looked at a few programs in the US. And like you said about the program in Germany, I felt like they were all like soft sustainability, like very not, I didn't feel like they dived deep into it. And what I really liked about industrial ecology was the tools that we learn, definitely the emphasis on tools. And that's why industrial ecology was my top choice of program for coming here. So.
Okay, perfect, thanks. So there's another question about sort of the possibility of part-time jobs, how many hours we should spend on our self-study, and maybe if there's any volunteering organizations. So I think we covered a little bit about part-time jobs, but about study hours, I think that varies per person. I spent a lot of hours studying, but also you do have to consider that there's a lot of group work. And if every person in your group works 1 day per week, then you might have a lot of trouble getting together to work on your projects. So really don't get yourself too overwhelmed. Don't work full time, obviously, beside it. But I think depending on your work ethic, you can manage small things, but then you also have to consider your group members when you're working together on something for the whole quarter. And I don't know about volunteering. You can join shift, but I don't think that really counts as a volunteering for the community, maybe. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I think also within university there are some nice initiatives for sustainability students, or the Green TU Delft, Sustainable Business Battle. So I think there are different initiatives where students come together and work on sustainability, either for a university or for an external party, or for some kind of game. So there are different options, I think.
Okay, and then the next one is the selection of free elective courses completely free, or are there restrictions?
Maybe I can take this one. There is a list of there is a large elective space, and some are core restricted electives or training specific to the Master of Industrial Ecology, like the methods we have been talking about. You have at least to complete a course on a method social to analyze physical processes, like life cycle assessment, for instance, or at least one method from the list of methods to assess social processes. Other than that, you can pick your own electives as long as they are master level courses and they are not language courses. So that, I think those are the main restrictions, and the elective space is distributed between the 2 years. So at some point there may be more or less credits depending on when you are in your IE pathway.
Thanks. Paula, how many students are in 1 year typically?
Yeah, this year we had we started with 130 students, and last year we had 125. So that's about the size of the group, and that's also kind of the number we expect for coming year. So that's it.
Thanks. Okay, the next question is, do you offer pre-masters for students that lack some of the necessary requirements to be selected for the masters? If so, who is eligible for the pre-masters?
No, unfortunately not. We don't offer a pre-masters program. So students should really meet the requirements by just during their bachelor program or doing a minor or a research project, an internship. So those kind of things you could use to prove your affinity with sustainability or your experience with interdisciplinary education or research, a pre-master's program.
Okay. And is it too difficult for students traveling with children?
We've had in the past students that traveled to the Netherlands and started a program as well with family and children. I think it adds an additional dimension, additional complexity, especially when it comes to the time spent in the program with group work. It's possible, but requires additional motivation, I suppose. And one of the challenges could be housing, and so it really. It is an assessment that's case specific, because it matters for the student, but also their partners and their families as well, depending on where they decided to locate and where they're coming from. So I think it's difficult to give a generic answer, possible, but challenging, perhaps.
Okay. The next question is, I'm wondering how competitive the admission for the program is, and do you consider all entry requirements somewhat equally, or do you put an emphasis, for example, on the background, grades, motivation, or prior experience?
Yeah, maybe I can also take this one because I'm in the admission committee, so I get to read all the motivation letters, the CVs, and the backgrounds and grades. I think we consider all entry requirements are listed on the page of our study program equally. We don't put an emphasis on one as compared to the other. We look into the mix, the motivation, and the affinity with sustainability, the affinity with interdisciplinary, and the more quantitative checks that we do on the quality of the English of the prospective students and applicants and their previous training. So it's a combination of all.
Thanks. Okay, and the next one, I'm going to start going a little bit quicker because we are running out of time. We said that programming skills are required. For someone who has never approached any softwares, which one do you suggest we start practicing with? Python.
I think I'll take that. Yeah, we during the master we use Python. So that's the software which you are going to use. And how to start working on it. For me, YouTube helped a lot, and Udemy offers nice classes for Python. So I think those are good ways to start. Maybe fellow students who know a lot about Python. So you can meet them in class, which was difficult for us, but I think now you can. So. And just do it.
Yeah. Are the topics, oh, actually one thing to add to that, we did have a sort of prep course, and in that prep course there was Python modules. So that's how I learned it, basically. So you would get that, I think, in July or August, if you've been accepted. Okay, next question. Are the topics of the first group project always on a theoretical basis, or is it possible to start a cooperation with a company or organization? Stefano?
Yeah, we start with the same case study for all students for the first group project, and in fact also when it comes to the sustainability challenge of the second year, as Joanna has already mentioned, there is a list of projects that our colleagues collect, or companies reach out to us to have students supporting them. In that case, students can indicate a preference, but for the first year, there is just a distinction between urban and industrial systems, and that's where the choice lies with students. But otherwise, it's defined by the course coordinators.
Okay, thanks. So I think we do have to wrap up now. So I'd like to thank the students for helping out, and also for Paula and Stefano for joining me today. And of course, thanks to everyone watching. We hope you enjoyed the session and that it's helpful for you when you're making your decision. Just some things for you to know. Between the 15th and 31st of March, there's a city tour in Leiden and a campus tour through the science campus. And then there's also an on-campus master market in Delft on March 30th. And then you can talk to some students and staff members. And then there's also, of course, you can always reach out to Paula or students. People are always eager to answer questions. So if you didn't get everything covered today, there's going to be other opportunities to ask those. So I think, unless anyone else has anything to add, have a great day and hopefully see you soon at Leiden University.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.